Imagine waking up so overwhelmed with bookings you have to turn off your ads because you can't handle more customers. And now imagine if every single one of those inquiries require you to check and cross-reference 10 different calendars and draft personalized response immediately. Well, this is the reality for a client that we're working with. They were drowning in 32 hours of email admin work every single week and handling 250 email booking inquiries every day manually. This isn't just a cool demo or a potential use case. This is a fully deployed system saving our clients £2,000 every single month in a real business right now. And in this video, you'll get to have free access to everything behind the scenes. I'm going to first show you how we're connected to the client and show you actual discovery call recordings where the client describes the problems in their own words, and also their initial hesitations about using AI. Then I'll walk you through an overview of the solution so you know how everything is connected, as well as a live showcase of the system in action. Finally, I'll break down the exact automation so you can replicate this for your business. And if you're new to this channel and don't know who I am, my name is Edwin Chen. I'm an Oxford postgraduate and Voiceflow certified expert. And over the past year, I've been running my own AI company, Legacy AI, where we've partnered with almost 50 different businesses, like the one you see in this video, to help implement voice, chat, and AI automation solutions so they can focus working on the business and not in the business. So let me give you some background on the client and show you how we're connected to them. A few months ago, the owner of one of the biggest ski schools in the UK reached out to me through my YouTube channel after searching for Voiceflow solutions and found my tutorials. By the way, if you're interested in working with me and my team, you're more than welcome to use the link in the description to book a free discovery call with us. Now, this isn't a small operation because they're running a multi-resort ski school across Monzé, Avoyes, and Leges, serving customers from the UK, Australia, and even in the US, with 10 full-time instructors during peak season. The business model works by customers submitting an inquiry through the website or through phone call and try to book a lesson. The owner or his wife would then try to find the right instructor at the right time at the right location for that customer. And like many service businesses that build their reputation on personal relationships, growth was starting to break what made them special in the first place. Unlike other case studies you see online, I'm going to show you the actual discovery call recordings where the client describes the problems in their own words.
My wife will work from 8 a.m. in the morning and until she's burned out at 11 o'clock at night. My wife will call me, or I try and call her and say, "Evening, darling, how are you doing? Can't talk to you, I'm too busy." And at the end of the season, she's utterly burnt out.
So right there, you're hearing the reality. His wife, who's the only person responsible for bookings, is working from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. during peak season every day, completely overwhelmed and burning out from handling customers' bookings. Let's get a little bit more specific. Let me show you when he breaks down exactly what's consuming all that time.
We have lots of telephone calls, lots of emails, and people are asking us lots of questions that if they read the website, they wouldn't be asking the questions. And to respond to those questions, it takes time. When people call us, they sometimes spend a lot of time. My wife is very hospitable, and sometimes people ask her more questions than they should and have friendly, "Oh, how are you? Oh, this. And before you know it, the friendliness of it has built our ski school, but it also takes up a lot of our time.
So the problem is here, high volume of repetitive customer questions. Customer asking things that are already on the website, and the personal touch that built their business is now the thing that's actually preventing them from scaling. And here's where it gets more intense. Listen to what happens during the busiest period, February half term.
February half term, every school in England, Scotland, south of Holland, central Holland, all go on the same week. So we are nearly fully booked already for February half term, which is frustrating for some people who don't really understand. I have to stop my Google pay-per-clicks around about now because it will get wasted on everybody calling us about exactly the same dates. Although we take in the most money, I don't think it's the most profitable time for us.
Think about that. The busiest, highest revenue week is actually not profitable because they're spending so much time handling the same inquiries and bookings over and over and over again. They're literally turning off their ads because they can't handle the volume. But here's when it gets even more complex.
We have, let's say, 60 emails a day. We respond to the email. That email comes back and says, "Yes, I want Johnny in that lesson, this, that, and the other." Okay, great. Here's another email back with the booking form. Okay, well, I want to pay a deposit. So we have 60 emails a day, can then turn into 250 emails because every email that goes out out sometimes creates another email that comes back with a question.
So for every inquiry, the owner's wife have to open the calendar system, check multiple instructor schedules, cross-reference resort locations, calculate the travel time between resorts, note down the options, and draft a personalized email response. And they're doing this 60 times a day. And before you ask, why don't he just hire someone? Well, he had already tried to solve this problem before, multiple times, and they had been burned and let down multiple times as well. Listen to this.
We had somebody lined up, and then they told us that they were going through a divorce and couldn't do it. And then we had somebody else who told us that that they've got something off the shelf and it would work. Brilliant. Okay, and we wasted 6 weeks, 8 weeks going down that line. And in the end, it's like, shit, it's October. We need a booking system.
So he's skeptical. He's been promised solutions before. He's lost money, he's wasted time, and this is the reality most business owners face when they're looking at AI solutions. They know they need help, but they just don't know who to trust.
Sometimes I'm finding AI is the emperor's new clothes, sold by somebody who's only just learned something and then thinks from their bedroom, oh, I can contact people and I can sell them this. And then when you come to pay the bill, you find out it doesn't work.
So our challenge wasn't building them a system that worked. It was building trust with someone who's been let down multiple times and proving this wasn't just another overpromised, under-delivered solution. To do that, we actually spent 4 hours mapping out and designing the solution for free and explained to him in the meeting what he's getting and exactly what the process looks like step by step. Now let me walk you through what the solution actually looks like. So I'm going to start off by actually first doing the demo, which is actually just an email. So I'm just going to request pretending to be a customer trying to book a ski lessons through this email, right? So I'm just going to paste it, and I've configured the email right now to connect it to our account. So I'm just going to say ski school lesson, and I'm just going to send this straight away. So just to recap, it basically said, hey, we're planning a family ski trip to Voros, which is one of the ski resort locations, from February 8th to 12th, and would love to book some ski lessons. Our group will have 2 adults, intermediate level, a child age 8, which is beginner, and a child age 6, which is beginner. We would prefer 3-hour lessons if possible, and mornings work best for us. And as you can see, we just got back a response, basically saying, hi Sarah, thank you for your inquiry and your lovely feedback. And then for this group of people, these are basically the dates that is coming back. So they have different instructors within the ski school. They have like Enrico, Jan, Lumbo, Mark, and Roberto. And for each of the ski instructors, they have their own availabilities. So it returns basically all the different available slots for booking. So 8th of February, 11:30 to 1:30, or 2 to 4 p.m., 2 to 5 p.m., 2 to 5 p.m., etc. And repeats for all the different instructors, and also gives the pricing and the lessons. Remember, this is a draft. So the ski school owner's team, what they will do is just copy this message and just delete any time that they don't like, or like there are very specific changes they want, if anything, and they can amend the languages, and then they can click send, which basically saves so much time from cross-referencing 10 or 30 different instructors' calendars. I will actually go ahead and show you the breakdown of the entire automation so you actually get the complexities and why it's such a time waster in all the different calendar setup and all the different booking inquiries, etc. So the first thing I want to share with you is that the client actually uses a very old legacy system, booking system called Timely. It's actually mainly used by Salon, but essentially it looks something like this. And unfortunately, they do not have an API, meaning there is no way for the AI agent to actually connect to Timely itself. So we have to do some more custom work in order to make it work. And just to show you kind of one of the examples is that within Timely, you basically have, let's say, a customer, and then it has ski lessons with one of the instructors. And it looks something like this. You have the locations and the time. Now, the trouble is, the first challenge is how can we actually move a system that's inside a legacy system that doesn't have an API to an agent? Well, to do that, we actually have to use these NAN workflows. So each instructor has their own calendar. There are 30 instructors, right? So what we decided to do is that for each of the instructor, we have a daily sync between Timely and Google Calendar. The reason why is because Google Calendar has a very, very good API, as you all probably know, that allows the AI agent to actually communicate with the calendars and can actually fetch the slots from the calendar, because right now the agent can't do it. So we have a trigger that triggers every day at midnight. And the way that we do that is that we have a webhook that essentially set information from timely through the timely webhook. And we have a code to basically do some structuring. To what it does is basically comparing the information now in the Google Calendar and the information that is fetching in the new timely events. So basically, let's say yesterday it has certain bookings, and let's say today the owner decided to delete it or cancel some of the bookings, then at midnight it will sync up with the Google Calendar. It will basically loop over basically all the instructions, and there are 4 different things to notice. The first thing is if there's an event added, aka there's a new booking, it will automatically add to the Google Calendar. If the events has been updated, aka like they changed the instructor, they updated the time, etc., it will then update the Google Calendar. If the events are removed, aka some bookings or appointments have been cancelled, then it will cancel the bookings in the Google Calendar accordingly. And each calendar, because they have their own calendar and they have their own calendar ID, it will repeat for all the different instructors. So you're seeing like maybe it looks really complicated. It's actually not that complicated. It's just that there are lots of instructors. So we need to have one for each of these instructors. And because there are quite a lot of instructors, in NAN, you can run kind of these workflows in parallel, meaning that all of these at the same time. But we kind of just batch it into basically 3 batches. You got the second batch here, the second batch of instructor, because there are 30 instructors, and a third batch here, right? That's the first thing, is to sync the timely to the Google Calendar. Now, I will show you a snippet of the Google Calendar. This is not the whole thing, but just an example. As you can see, you've got like, for example, 9:15, you've got a customer booking with one of the instructor at a very specific ski resort location, and you will see which hours it is, what's the event, the phone number, and etc. This is actually how it would look like on the Google Calendar, but this is just a kind of a small subset of all the bookings in the Google Calendar. Once that's done, once everything in Google Calendar, now we can actually do something about it. And we actually, to do that, is we need to set up some sort of automation so that the agent can actually respond to the email. And to do that, we need to set up a trigger in Gmail so that when an email comes in, this goes through this trigger, and then we go through a LLM node to actually filter out the email, because not all emails are bookings. So we have a prompt here that basically is an email classification agent. You're an AI agent that analyzes incoming emails to determine whether they constitute a genuine inquiry requiring a response from the school. And then you have your tasks, right? Is to determine whether it's inquiry or not, and then return a structured JSON output. So if you don't know what JSON is, don't worry too much about it. It just makes it so the AI will always return inquiry or not inquiry, right? It gives some information, and then it basically does a definition of what an inquiry is. It's basically defining, what is an inquiry? So lesson booking request, service information request. And then these are the examples that you can give. What are inquiries? So you're basically teaching the AI what is an inquiry. You also give it the prompt of example of what are not inquiries. So what are not inquiries, like draft content, like newsletter, marketing, email, promotions, so that when someone's actually sent like a promotion or marketing material, we didn't actually trigger this entire automation, right? So we only make sure that the automation only works and the AI only responds if it's a customer booking, essentially. And then the output will look something like this, basically giving if it's an inquiry, and if it is, it has and how confident you are with it, and the reasoning of it. The reason why we pass out the reasoning is actually easier for us to debug, like if something goes wrong. And then it has some key signals as well, which again, don't worry too much about it. The key thing is like basically this LLM just classify if this email is a inquiry or not, right? And these are just the details. Again, I'm not going to go through all of it. Then what happens if we have a if node? So if this is indeed a solid inquiry, then we will send them a message, right? Just send a message. If this is not an inquiry, then we just skip it. We just don't do anything, do nothing, right? So let me now look forward to how the email agent looks like. So this message, after it's filtered, is if it's an email, then it will go through this email draft agent right here. This email basically will, as you know, draft the email, right? So it has 3 tools. The way that we design this is that we need to first assign a instructor based on the user's requirements, aka if they request a female instructor, if they have children, if they are nervous skiers. Some instructors are better with beginner skiers, and some ski instructors are better with more mature or experienced instructors, right? So based on these keywords, we want to be able to fetch the right instructor, one, and also each instructor have their own availabilities, meaning that sometimes some instructors are free at these slots, sometimes they have having their day off, right? And the way to do that is to have a tool attached to the AI so that it can fetch us all the data about the instructors. And to do that, we have stored an instructor table in Superbase, which is just a database containing all the instructor. So we have the instructor ID, we have the name of the instructors, we have whether they are employed or not, full-timer, we have also part-timer here. So as you can see, there's like around 37 of these instructors. Each instructor will be assigned to a specific location. There is Morzine, right? There's also like Mobile, right? There's mainly those two locations. And here you have specialization. These are the keywords that's basically the agent we try to look at. So you will have like 3-4 years old nervous skiers. So like for Glenn, for example, he's really good with nervous skiers. Also really good with kids, beginner, intermediate, and ADHD, low-level autism, right? So it's really, if there are any special needs, he can find Glenn. Glenn would be a good instructor. The agent would know that. So now if I go back to, let's say, to here, maybe another person's teenagers, right? If they're really good with teens, race techniques, recovering from injuries, female instructor, German speaking. So if someone wants to speak in German, they can request this specific instructor, which is Elena, right? So this is how the agent would know which instructor to know. And because each instructor has their own calendar, of course, we need to be able to fetch the calendar ID. That is why we also store the specific Google Calendar ID within the column in this Superbase. And now the most importantly for availability is because each instructor again have the day off during some times of the year. How do we do that? Well, we need to be able to fetch that information. And to do that, we actually store that in a JSON inside a column called availability. Again, JSON is just a very, very structured way of storing information to make sure the AI can return this information accurately. So you can see for this instructor, I'll just use, let's say, Glenn. For Glenn, he is available from the 12th of December to the 31st of December. For January, he's available the whole month. For February, he's also available for the whole month, right, etc. So this basically let the agent know what dates is Glenn's instructor specifically is available, right? And then this will be passed back to the agent. So hopefully this gives you a structure of how we store the instructors and everything. This is one of the tools, which is fetch instructor booking. Now, we also have a to-do tracker. Now, the reason why, because this is a very, very complicated step-by-step process, and we use basically something called chain of thoughts prompting. So we can have a brief look over the prompts. So chain of thought is basically instructing the AI to try to think step by step by step by step. This is particularly useful when we are trying to test when we have an agent that has a very, very multi-step, very, very complex problem solving, like this use case, right? Because they have like 30 different instructors, and then they all have their custom rules. Like some of them may be nervous, some of them may be available during this state. And then they also need to check the calendar, not just this availability, because this is just kind of their day off, right? This calendar actually shows the availabilities. So it gets really complicated really quickly. So we need to have a very, very clear step-by-step process. So you can have a look at the prompt. We have some identity. This is not too important. With some instructions. But basically, we have the tool called To Tracker. We ask the agent to initialize this To Tracker when starting any email conversations. And it will basically generate, what it does, generate a list of tools that the agent needs to do, right? So you have 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, like task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4. These are the things that you need to do. And the agent, after doing them, will mark the items as done after completing the actual work. This basically gives the agent a very, very reliable way of marking the items as done, because sometimes with AI, it can just skip some steps, or it will just kind of, lie about it, kind of what we call hallucinate, where the AI lies about, yeah, I've done it, but they haven't actually done the task that you want them to do. This will make sure that the AI actually does the task, because you need to physically mark the item as done, right? We give some information. You don't need to worry too much about this. So again, we have the step 1, which is to initialize the tracker tool. And then we initialize it, and then we pass the customer request. We extract the document from customer requirement with the dates, the result preference that the user wants, the group details, special needs, lesson preference, specific instruction request by name, if any. And then after this is complete, it will basically call the first tool to be done, right? So the action is done. And let me first show you what that actually looks like. So what we use actually is actually a data table within NAN, and you can just kind of have that, right? So being in this NAN, you can just create a data table inside NAN. And this is basically a structured way of storing data. Again, you have the thread ID, you have the agent name, and then you have the items. This is actually where it will get updated. So you have the ID, and then it basically, you have, the first thing is pass customer request details, and then you can see the status is done, right? Because it's actually finished. And yeah, so you have a tool tracker to kind of track all the tasks that the agent needs to do. And then you just structure the optimal groups, and then you just repeat and repeat and repeat. Now, the SQL tool is basically what we described just now. It's basically in the Superbase. Again, it's stored in a very structured data set. So we have, so we can actually fetch this instructor specific information. And this is done using the SQL tool, right? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. You don't need to know what this is. It's just a very easy way for the agent to fetch information that is really organized and structured in a database, right? Again, you basically skip all those informations. You don't need to know too much about it, etc. And once that's all when it has all the instructor information, then it will then fetch the instructor booking with the candidate ID, right, etc. And then it will return something like this. So we have the instructor candidate ID, which you get from this Superbase, which you can see here. Then it's going to search for the candidate, the actual Google candidate, for the availabilities. Then it will return a response, something like this, like the date, the results that the instructor is working on, the allowed booking hours, and the bookable slots. So these return the actual slots that is available to the user. And obviously, you may ask, well, why is there an allowed booking hours? That's because it's a custom business logic where, like, if they started off 3-hour slots, they can only do 3-hour slots for the rest of the day. Again, this is specific to the business. Don't worry too much about it. The thing that you should pay attention to is like the start date and the date, end date and the duration of the bookable slots. This is what's actually being returned back to the user, right? Again, this is just some format. You don't need to worry too much about it. But yeah, that's the kind of main idea of it, is basically, again, call the to-do tracker, right? Basically to mark the to-do list to be done. And I can show you as well a little bit how it's done. This is basically the to-do tracker tool. It basically enters your information, go to here, and then you basically have different ways. So if the request is to initialize it when the first email first come in, you need to initialize the to-do list, and it will initialize and insert a row inside this data table, right? Now, after, it will then follow through the to-do list checklist and do task one by one. The first task, if there's a new task, we need to add the task, and we just add it in the data table, and we need to update the row. If we need to list something, then we'll find a specific row and we'll list it back to the agent. If it's done, then we will find the row and mark it as done inside the data table. This is actually how you will see, is actually when you have the status done, this is how we do it, by just updating the row here, right? Using this specific code, right? And if it's clear, meaning that everything is clear, then we just mark it as everything's done, right? This is just kind of like a custom checklist, which is a lot of coding required. Again, don't worry too much about it. It can get a little bit technical, but just know that the tool is there. And then we have the SQL query tool, again, which I explained, that is connected to the Superbase, and which is here to fetch the instructor information right back to the agent, right? And then after it has all these information, it then calls this fetch instructor bookings, right? Which actually, again, is this tool right here, right? Which actually, again, it basically sends a request to a Google script that we have written. It gets the row from the Superbase, right? Which is basically the candidates, the available slots, right? Which again, you can see here is the availability range. And then afterwards, it does some formatting and then return back to the user with the bookable slot. Then the email agent then draft a human response and draft it back to the email, which is what you saw earlier in the demo with, hey, these are the slots that are available. By the way, this is not finalized, aka this whole email agent is saved as a draft. So the user, the owner team, what they do actually is they go to the draft, they go through the slots, and they just delete anything they don't like or they want to make it sound a little bit different, they have the option to do that because it's just a draft. That's where we add like a human in the loop step to make sure they check everything looks good from the AI. But it just saves them so much time, right? As you can see. As you can see, it saves them so much time from having to check 35 candidates, find the right instructor based on the user's inquiry, find the right instructor, check 35 different candidates to make sure that the slots available, write them all out one by one, and then send an email with the price and everything, right? This saves them a humongous amount of time. This is why this solution is really valuable for this specific business. So yeah, hopefully you kind of learned something today, like how actual useful automations can be done in real businesses. And if your business owner is interested in implementing similar systems, similar automations for your business, you're more than welcome to use the link in the description to book a free discovery call with me and my team. And yeah, if you enjoyed this kind of content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you want me to do more of these case studies video. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.